freaking feels like fall out here is freaking ridiculous. Look at the blooms. Well, guess where we're filming our video again, because I love this. Hey guys, what's up? It's Heather with the Moscow, and today we are out here in front of my hydrangeas again. I love it right here. They're starting to bloom, and I'm very excited about it. Look at all the blooms on these plants. I'm so excited. Anyhow, if you're new here, my name is Heather, and this is the Moscow, where we're learning to garden together and trying things out even when conditions aren't perfect. We live in East Tennessee, garden in a zone 7B. We live in the woods, lots of shade. Let me pan you around. Hold on. I'll try to be slow. See, surrounded by woods. It's beautiful up here. I love this very, very much. Is this a better angle for lighting? Doesn't matter. We're going to have the hydrangeas in the background. It just doesn't matter. Sorry. It is the middle of May, and I am in a jacket. Now, grant you, I get cold very, very easily, but it is 55 degrees. It was 80 a couple weeks ago. We were running jet skis and having a great time, and now it is 55, and I am over it. I'm ready for summer. See my summer nails? I'm ready for summer. The plants need a little more heat than what they're getting. They look great. The garden looks great right now. Very happy with it, but we need more heat. Oh, goodness gracious. I do have my Moana earrings, if you can see. That has nothing to do with gardening, but I love Disney. My favorite Disney princess is Moana, and so I have my Moana earrings. They were a Mother's Day gift, and thank you, Jason, because I love them. They don't match my outfit. It doesn't matter. Okay. So back to today's usual programming. I wanted to talk for a few minutes. You know, it seems like everything just costs a ton. Everything costs more. Everything is costing a lot more, and a lot of our paychecks are saying exactly the same. So I think all of us are trying to find ways to just stretch our expendable income a little further. And so I wanted to share some tips and strategies that I use in order to keep the cost down when I'm in my garden. A lot of these are basically how to buy plants for cheaper, how to get more plants for your money. Basically, how do you take your garden budget and spread it as far as you can go? Jason's cleaning the garage, and he found my drip tape and connectors that I swore I didn't have. But I do, in fact, have them. Thanks. I could go put drip in that bed to be fair, I would be taking this time to do manual labor because it's 55 degrees outside. But I hurt my back again doing manual labor, so I probably shouldn't. And the thing about it is I'm a terrible patient, and I feel like I can go down there and do it. But I know that if I do, I will prolong the recovery period, and I can't work out right now, and that is horrible for me. So, on to the regularly scheduled programming. So, let's talk about first, legally, you should not propagate plants that have a patent. That's illegal. Now, do I think people are going to come into your yard and be like, where's your receipt? I don't see that Incrediball Hydrangea seem like you got more than you paid for. No one's going to do that. But out of respectfulness for the fact that people dedicate their lives to creating these wonderful varieties of plants for us, I don't advocate for you going out here propagating a ton of plants, buying one, and then somehow spreading that all over your garden. Now, do we like to stretch our budget a little bit on what we buy and make sure we're getting everything out of it? Sure we do. Do we want to kind of cheat the system? Not so much. So that's going to be different for everybody, and everyone's going to have feelings about that. So everybody's a little different as to where they think it's acceptable to stretch your plant budget and where you're going too far. But moral of the story, keep that in mind. So technique number one that I use when I'm trying to fill up landscape areas without spending a ton of money is shopping my own garden. What do I mean by that? So oftentimes I will buy a product or a plant and I'll put it in a place and it starts to decline and it doesn't really look happy there, and it's just not thriving. Instead of waiting for it to thrive and trying to baby it along, take the strategy to go ahead and move that somewhere else. You like that plant, you've already invested that plant, and maybe there's somewhere else in your garden that needs that plant, and if you just moved it somewhere it'd be happier, it will start to thrive for you, and you're solving a problem for the next thing. Otherwise, it's just gonna die where it's at or barely make it where it's at and not be impactful for you. There are certain areas in your garden, I'm sure, that you go out every day and you look at these Incrediball Hydrangeas for me, and you love them. You love, this plant has been such a win. What was in here before was hostas. I've said this before, they were burning, they weren't doing well here. I moved those to an area where they were doing better, and I heavily divided them and got a whole lot of plants and filled in an area for free. But these solved a great purpose for me. Every plant in my garden, we are all aiming to do that, to look at and say, that is great where it's at, it's flourishing, it looks good, it solves a problem, it's a design element, perfect. If you have a plant in your garden right now that's just hanging out, it ain't doing the job, there's a place that maybe it could function better, and if you just move it, you're solving a problem without spending any money. Let's go take a look at something. This little hydrangea here. You see it? That little hydrangea there. Now, it's got growth on it, it looks good, it's on drip. I put it there last week. I need to fill up this bed here. And this bed has an interesting sun situation. It only gets afternoon shade for a couple hours a day, so full sun things don't do the best in here. Here's an example of my daylilies. They're gonna bloom, but they're not gonna be super big, but the grassy texture looks good here. They do okay. The blooms they put on look good. I don't wanna move them. But I need to put something in here that needs sun, can tolerate some afternoon sun, and most likely it's shrubs. I like to do a lot of shrubs. They have color or fill up a space for at least the whole season. And I love hydrangeas. This hydrangea was living deep into the woods over there. It had looked like this for 2 or 3 years. I had put in like a whole hedge of these. Only 3 survived. They weren't doing good back there. I should have moved them sooner. But I need to fill in this space. It's a considerable amount of space. And if I buy all new plants for that, it's gonna be super expensive. So by moving this hydrangea that I already had, that will probably meet the light requirements here. I've not put in any money, and I've got 2 more that I can put in. I might be able to fill this space in for no charge. Now you're saying, but there's no plant over there. But it wasn't doing what a plant's supposed to do. I am more of a design person than a collector. I don't want a plant, some plants, a few plants, I want them for what they are. Gardenias or that. But I try to find things that I want for what they are, but that also fit the design I'm looking for. I like shrubs. I don't like very many perennials. I only like certain annuals in certain places, but I like shrubs and evergreens. I like a mixture of foliage colors, but I love hydrangeas, and I need things that are going to solve the design problem for me. This is going to solve the design problem for me here, and it was not over there. It wasn't thriving, it didn't look good, people didn't even know it was there, whereas here it can really stand out. So by moving this plant to a more suitable place, and by not trying to baby it along in a situation it's not gonna do well, I now have essentially a free plant, or I've already purchased it. I don't have to spend any more money to fill up this bed. So that's the thing. We all wanna get these plants, and then we look around and we're like, you know what? Maybe it's just not doing well where it's at. Go ahead and move it to a place where it would do better, and it will solve a design problem for you. Some people are really just plant collectors, and so they are going to put plants where they think the plants will do the best. I want the plant to thrive, but also fit the design. These right here, they are thriving, but they fit the design. They look incredible. They take up a lot of space. There's not weeds underneath them because they're so thickly planted. Once they get all their blooms on them, you guys are gonna get tired of looking at this area. I love it so much. It looks good. It's a high traffic area. It solves the problems, but it's also a plant I love because I love hydrangeas. Now, another tip in the shop your own garden situation is dividing and spreading plants you already have. Now, let's go look at another area. Here is my lamb's ear, and I've shown you guys this before as well. But also the last time I was here, the gardenias weren't in their glory. Now look at this plant. This is a plant that I love. It smells incredible. Look at that beautiful bloom. Look at these beautiful blooms. Smells incredible, looks amazing. Even when it's not blooming, it has this glossy foliage. It's evergreen, it fills up this bed. And underneath it, we're wanting to fill in the rest of the bed with lamb's ear, Helena von Stein lamb's ear as a ground cover. And you can see over here, it's getting really close to being that. It takes care of the weeds for me. I don't have weeds in this bed anymore, nearly as bad as I did. It's a great blue to contrast the dark green. It's great. It also does really well for me. It likes the sun. It spreads really fast. This was put in last year, and I put in 1, 2, 3, 4 plants. That one, for whatever reason, died, but the rest of it has spread out beautifully. Maybe I put one back there. Might have put one there and one on the corner. So what I've done to try to, I thought I just wanted it to ring around it, but I think I wanted to just be a carpet of this stuff, is I have divided it. I've come in here and taken this last part, divided it out, and put starts of it. Gosh, that gardenia smells good. Look at it. It's just so pretty. And put starts of it here and along the back as well. So I went in the middle and along the back. That is going to finish this bed out for me. It's going to take care of weeds for me. And I didn't spend any money on these plants. I already had them. I can divide them further if I need to. And the other thing is, I know this is a plant that does well for me. I know the kind of conditions this plant likes. For the most part, I put this plant in, and by the end of the season, it's covered whatever area. It looks fantastic. It's grown, it's lush, it's beautiful, it's soft, it's blue to contrast all the oranges and reds that we have around here, namely the house. It contrasts the green of the foliage really well, and I know it does well for me. So why wouldn't I want that color somewhere else? I've had lambs here and here a couple times, and changed the bed enough that I've moved it. Wearing the wrong shoes. Oh. So one of the times that I have divided this lamb's ear, I put it here. Girls, that's not very ladylike. I put it here. Now, this bed has too much blue in it. That's blue, this is blue. This is blue. I need to put something or chartreuse right here. But I actually have another hydrangea I think I'm going to put right there. Maybe some chartreuse over here. But I was able to take these tiny little starts, just like you saw up there last year, and stick them in the ground over here. And look how beautiful they look. Look how lush they look. They're doing great. So again, that's an opportunity for me to take a plant I already have, I already know how it's already doing well, divide it out, get more plants. Same thing with the hostas that were in my beloved hydrangea bed. I took those, I knew that they were hostas that would do well here for us on this property because they were already here, but they needed less sunlight. They would bleach out over here, I'd be grooming off dead leaves left and right. So I took them and I heavily divided them and filled a whole bed with hostas over there. Those plants we already owned, we're just stretching that plant budget further. And that way, we filled up a section, because remember, less uncovered ground means less maintenance, and we like that, and it got taken care of. So look around your garden. Is there something that's doing really, really well for you that you could divide and fill in an area? Would it solve a design problem for you somewhere else? The other benefit to this is if you have a few plants that are always repeating through your landscape, it makes it more cohesive. It makes the design a little better. So if you are into the design thing and not just the plant collecting thing, by doing that, not only are you stretching your plant budget and saving yourselves money on plants, but you're also creating a more cohesive experience. There's certain, I like to have red, yellow, green, and blue in all the flower beds unless it's a monochromatic situation like this. And so by doing that, I can spread more blue around. I know that if I'm missing a blue color and I get some sunlight, it's probably going to do well for me, and I can always get more. Everybody, please comment below. I have a theory that all men love like flashlights and lights and like light bulbs. Comment below if your husband or the man in your life is also of this camp. It's just, I mean, we like Disney and plants, and that's what they like. To each their own, but when he got me these new Vigo beds, they sent some included lights, and he's happy about the free item with purchase. So that is shopping your own garden, stretching your budget by shopping your own garden using plants that you already have that maybe aren't in the best location, or dividing out plants that you do have that are doing well for you so that you can get a more cohesive garden setup. The next thing, and this is not something that I use a lot, but for some of you, it may be very helpful. If you have a gardening friend and they've got plants they need to get rid of, you could be the person that takes those plants. So just always be on the lookout. Always be talking to your gardening friends. Get on some Facebook Marketplace for people that are getting rid of their plants, or you're trading them a plant. You know, you're getting rid of something and you don't want to throw it away. It's just not doing well for you. You don't have a spot for it. Maybe you've got a gardening friend that you could trade them a plant out for. Or maybe you've got a friend that they're like, you know what, my creeping Jenny, I got too much of it. I want to get rid of it. Hey, call me. Or we lost a tree in the yard, now we have no shade and these hostas are gonna die. Call me, I got you. I'll come dig them up, don't worry about it. Not right now because my back's hurt. I will send one of my kids to dig them up. I won't. I'll go do it myself and hurt myself again, it's fine. But that's another option to you. There's also seed swaps that are available, especially for your production garden. Maybe you have a setup that does really well at growing, starting tomato seeds, but you have a hard time starting your flower seeds, or you forgot something, or you couldn't get the seeds, or whatever it was. A seed swap, if you look in your communities, check online, check on your Facebook groups, that's another option to you as well. So getting with your plant friends and seeing if they can either trade you or seed swap you or give you something. Always keep your eye out, always be talking to other people that talk about plants. I have a lot of customers where I work. One of them is really into plants. And it's always, hey, what are you planting? What do you have? You know, make those relationships with other plant people so that you can share resources. Number 3, and this is one that I use a lot and that I'm really kind of passionate about, choosing your container arrangements in plants very wisely. And there's a couple parts to this. So let's go take a look. These containers here, this one, and this one. This is a high traffic area for us. We drive up here, this is when we get in and out of the cars. If we're outside, we're almost always here. So these 2 containers, I spend a lot of time and energy, and the most budget, I would say, on these containers. I like them to be changed out seasonally. I like a fall planting in here, a spring planting. I like to do them up for Christmas. I like to have them done in the summer. But that's a lot of plants being replaced a lot of times. It's a lot of money. These are rather large containers as well, is the other problem. So I have a couple strategies that help me to still be able to change my plants out without it costing a bunch of money. This is probably a 22, 23, 24 inch container, something like that. You'll notice my thriller in here is this beautiful Chamaecyparis. Again, I love evergreens. I think they look great. They go with my house. I love them. But there's a couple benefits here. First of all, I can leave this centerpiece in year-round. It takes up a lot of real estate in this pot, and then all I need to do is refresh it and underplant it with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 or 6 things in the bottom. I'm not having to spend money to buy 2 giant plants every single season. This is here, it stays here, that money's already spent, and I put it on drip and it exploded. And it's probably gonna have to come out of this pot eventually. But for several years, this has been here. I put Christmas lights on it. It looks really good. I could trim it up some so that the plants have room, but it takes up a lot of real estate. It's always in there. It's a one-time investment. And this wasn't a particularly expensive evergreen. Some of your specimen evergreens are very expensive, but some of these Chamiciferous aren't very expensive. I think it was $20. You can get it at a box store. And you're taking up now a lot of real estate every single time you plant it, and all you need to do to get that seasonal is to replant the bottom part. Same thing with this here. Now, this was not a $20 evergreen. This evergreen is doing fabulous in here, and it's blue. So again, I've got my blue with my green. I do need some red and yellow in here. But all I have to do is change out the plants that it's underplanted with. I still get that seasonal change. I still get to do my containers and have that good time. But the vast majority of the real estate of this very large container is taken care of all the time. Christmas lights can go on this. So it's great. It doesn't have to necessarily be an evergreen. Some people will do obelisks, or a shrub would be another option to go in here. You can put a lot of things into containers. They can stay there for several seasons, take up a lot of real estate, and then move them out into the landscape. The other thing is, this is the type of tree that would do well in my landscape. This as well is the type of tree that would do well in my landscape. Now, caveat for us is that a lot of times some of these conifers don't like the clay soil, and the drainage isn't as good, so it likes the pot a little better. But for the most part, it can stay here for several years, look gorgeous. I can have my evergreen, but I can also have my seasonal container underneath. And now I'm only buying 3 or 4 or 5 plants underneath every single season versus having to buy a giant, thriller every single season. In the fall too, and in the spring when you're not getting as much growth on these plants, that thriller is going to have to be pretty large because it's not going to grow into what you need it to be. It's going to have to be able to take it up on its own. So by having a nice evergreen or shrub or perennial that can stay there year after year, you're saving a lot of money on these containers and still having that seasonal change out. And it looks really good with the hydrangea. I'm just thrilled with this hydrangea. Y'all just don't even know. I already touched on this when we were over there, but plants that can do double duty in the container and then go in the landscape. Maybe you really want a certain evergreen in your landscape, but you're not ready for it in that area. For whatever reason, that area is not prepared, or you bought the evergreen, but you don't have to have it over there right now. You could put it in the container for a season and use it as your thriller and then put it out in your landscape. So now you've gotten 2 uses out of it. You've got it as a thriller in a container, and you've also got it in the landscape. Maybe you're working on, over time, building a hedge of a certain shrub. And so you have 2 that match, and you want to use them in the containers for this season, and then next season you're going to put them out in your hedge. Maybe it's perennials. Maybe you're wanting to put a certain perennial in your beds, but you're not ready for them, or whatever the case may be. It's on sale at that time. Get it, put it in a container, use it for a thriller, plant it out in the fall. Things do really well in the fall. Plant it out in the fall, and that way you've gotten 2 uses out of that one purchase of a plant. The final way that I will say choosing plants for your containers wisely, I love annuals too. I love a good annual. I love a good annual. Not all annuals are created the same. And that's great because not all of our needs for every container is the same. What do I mean by that? So let's say I had that giant container out here in the full hot blazing sun. And I didn't want an evergreen in it. Maybe I just wanted something that was lower, whatever the case may be. When you're going to buy your annuals, keep in mind that some of these annuals get to be huge. Now, I could go out with that same container placed in the sun with nothing in the center that I'm wanting to do kind of a mounded over effect for whatever design reason. And I could get 3 or 4 different types of super bells and get maybe 4 or 5 plants and put them in there. Or I could get one Supertunia Vista for $7, $8 and stick it in that container, and in a couple weeks, about a month, it's going to fill it up, spill over the sides. Just that one plant. So look at the area that you're wanting to fill up. What kind of plant do you need to fill up that area? Would you be better off if you're trying to keep that budget down? Maybe you've got a whole bunch of containers you need to do and you need them to look the same. Would you be better off getting multiple plants that grow to a regular size? Or is this the time you need to spend the couple dollars more per plant and get a Supertunia and let that fill up the area in question, but using only one plant? So keep that in mind. When you're looking at these plants, some of these things get huge. Sweet potato vines can get huge. You know, if you're looking at a thriller or a spiller, but you want it to only use one and not have to use 4 or 5. My dogs are chasing something. You want to use one and not have to use 4 or 5. Maybe instead of getting that ivy or getting that creeping Jenny, which by the way, you could plant out later. So just saying, I'm not against the ivy. But if it's an area you really want something to trail and take up a large amount of real estate, getting one Supertunia is going to get you further than an ivy in that situation. So make sure that you're choosing the right plant for the design look that you're wanting, that you can buy less plants, but get more out of that one plant. Like I say, one Supertunia Vista gets huge. They will get, you know, sometimes I feel like they could get 3 by 3 and they'll mound up and look gorgeous. And so you're getting a lot of bang out of that one plant versus if you bought, and I love a good sun patient. If you get a sun patient, I just don't feel like they get quite as large. You're gonna need 3 or 4 of them, and maybe that's the look you're going for, and that's fine. But just keep in mind, if you are wanting to save money, that one Supertunia plant is just gonna get larger and bigger. Lantana just gonna get larger and bigger than your Super Bells or whatever the case may be. So if budget is a concern, think about that. Think about those things. Do I need something that's just gonna fill in this space and I can only buy a couple plants to do so? Other container plants that can kind of do double duty for you, be helpful. If you do put ivy in a pot, and I love ivy trailing out of a pot, especially in the fall, something about that icy blue with the tones of the pumpkins and all those things looks great. You can use that multiple times in multiple places. You can move it around. You could propagate it, especially if it's something that doesn't have a patent on it. Bring it in the house, bring it out the next season. That's another thing you can do with your container plants. Some of them make really great house plants after the season's over, Pegasus begonias. And then you could bring them out the following season and keep perpetuating that way. But if you're really smart about your container plants, you could still have the option to change them out seasonally without spending thousands of dollars every year trying to do so. If you're picking the right plant, if you're keeping some kind of centerpiece in there to take up a lot of real estate, so all you got to do is add a little bit of accessory plants to it to kind of give the feel that you want for the season that you're in. Number 4 is going to be purchasing things that you know when you're at the store you can divide them up later. So especially when I like to do drifts of things. Just saying. I like to have one plant that just take up a whole space. I think it looks really striking from a design point. It looks beautiful. So I often will buy multiples of the same plant. Now, you run into some problems with that. Always, yes, use your coupon, use your basic money saving tools, but sometimes they just don't have as many plants as I need, is problem 1. Problem 2 is, again, that can get very expensive. So when I'm in a store, I was doing this recently, I want some of those Heucheras that are like a chartreusey green, but they only had like 2, and I probably needed 4 or 5. I could bring them home and cut them in half and spread them out that way. Again, you don't want to be propagating, and you don't really want to be, but you're stretching your budget. I've done this with my Kimberly Queen Fern this year. Now, grant you're going to have to saw that sucker in half, and you're going to need to learn what half looks like, because I didn't do a very good job, but the pot wasn't big enough to have a full Kimberly Queen Fern of what they had. And so by buying one and cutting it in half, I had the perfect amount, the perfect size for both of my containers. They're gonna match if I hadn't cut it wrong because it is the same plant. But you can buy plants and cut them in half and divide them immediately. Sometimes when you get a hosta it will have 3 or 4 shoots coming out. You could divide those out, especially if you're in a situation where they don't have enough plants for what you need, and you just need to stretch it a little further to make your drift look the way you want it to look. You can divide these plants you get at the store. I've done this a lot with Heucheras. A lot of times I want to do a whole bunch of Heucheras. I want them in all containers because they can take sun or shade, and they do really well for us. But they don't have enough, and so I can buy 3, and if I need to do the 2 containers up there, I can cut those in half, put half of 3 in one and half of 3 in the other. Now I have containers that match, and I've stretched my plant budget. Especially on some of those perennials, some of your hostas, heucheras, things like that. They cost a little bit more than annuals do because they are perennial plants. By dividing them when you get them home, you're stretching that budget even further. The other thing that I will mention as far as saving money with dividing plants when you get them home is production plants. When you buy often cucumber plants or what are those? Squash plants, that little container will have 3 or 4 actual starts in there, and you can separate those out and get more for your money by doing so. If you see that container, look at it. Is there 4 different stems in there? Could you divide those out and get 4 different plants for them? You have to be a little bit more careful with that because some plants just really don't like their roots disturbed, and you're already transplanting them, so that's root disturbance, so you're further disturbing roots by pulling them apart. But some plants are fine with that. And so look at those plants when you're buying them. Do you really need to buy 4, or is there 4 in that one container and you can just buy the 1? So keep an eye on that as well when you're shopping for your production plants. Number 5 in ways to stretch your budget is going to be starting things from seed. Now, there's kind of 2 parts on this. When you start starting things from seed, you do need grow lights, seed trays, babysitting, all those things. If you already have that, then you're not investing that money, but just keep in mind that if you have to invest your money in starting seeds inside, because there's 2 ways to start seeds, right? You can start them inside. You can also just direct sow your seeds. Now, I'm a big fan of direct sowing because I don't do a very good job of starting seeds inside. But if you already have that, I think it's Jim Putnam on HortTube. He starts a lot of his annual plants, a lot of his zinnias and things inside from seed, more so because he enjoys having fun, unique varieties. He's more of a plant collector, but he starts a lot of stuff inside. So he's getting all of his annual plantings that he's put in his garden beds by starting them inside, and he's saving a ton of money on that. Seed packets are $5, and he can get so many plants out of that $5, whereas I'm spending $6, $7 for a Supertunia. Now you can't grow a Supertunia from seed, but if you're wanting a whole bunch of annuals and you just don't have the money to be straight buying annuals, or you want to cover a mass area with annuals, think about starting them from seed. Because even after you invest in the grow lights, etc., which there's ways to get that cheaper too, you will still come out a lot better. Now, the other thing I like to do is direct sow. I like to direct sow 90% of what I put out in my production garden. I don't do well starting things from seed. I will buy the plants for my tomatoes and peppers, and then everything else I pretty much direct sow. So zinnias, I direct sow a lot of zinnias, or I buy dahlia tubers. But by starting things from seed, cucumbers do well starting from seed, green beans do well starting from seed. By starting them from seed, you're saving a ton of money. I have a ton of seeds in there. I hardly have to buy any seeds annually to start my vegetable garden, things that I run out of, but I spend a lot of money on seeds for a while, and so I've got videos on that. So starting things from seed, especially for your production garden, is a lot cheaper. Some things, again, you're going to have to start inside, and if you're great at that, that's great. It'll save you a ton of money, but for the most part, I just prefer to choose production plants that I can start direct sow in the ground. Zinnias, I grow a bunch of zinnias because they're easy to start in the ground. So again, you can save a bunch of money by starting things from seed. And my last, it's fitting that we're still right here, but my last tip on stretching your plant dollar is buying plants that are smaller. Now, some things don't grow very fast. This evergreen is probably not that much larger than when I bought it. She looks beautiful, but she's not that much larger than when I bought it. So that was a very big investment. Worth every penny. She's beautiful and I love her. And there are certain pieces in my garden that are that. They're usually Christmas presents or, birthday presents. But that evergreen there was $20. And I bought it when it was 12, 13 inches high, and I put it in there, 20 bucks. And it's serving a very big evergreen presence. There are 8 Incrediball Hydrangeas behind me. When I buy these at the garden center that I usually go to, they are $40 to $50 a piece. Maybe 30 if I catch them on sale. They are in giant gallon, 2-gallon containers. That also means that I have to dig a hole that size. And if you know me, you know that I have very thick clay soils in a lot of this garden, and that's harder, that's more difficult than it seems. These plants here are 2 years old. I bought them and put them in the, ground fall before last. They came in quart-size containers, and I paid $12 or $13 for them in the fall when they were on sale. That's another thing about plants is after their bloom cycle, they tend to go on sale. When these are big and beautiful and blooming and they're at the garden center and those giant white blooms on them, they're gonna be more expensive. But after they finish blooming and they just look like green leaves, they're gonna go on sale. So I bought quart containers of these because I knew that these would grow really quickly and weren't worth paying the extra money to have the larger plant. Now, again, evergreens, you need to buy the larger plant. They're not gonna get that much bigger on you in that amount of time. But this will grow a lot in a very short period of time. So I bought these online from a reputable source. Can't remember, maybe Plants by Mail, Proven Winners Direct, probably Proven Winners Direct. They might have been 20 bucks a piece. There's 8 in here. And in 2 years, they're giant. And my dogs trampled them the first year. So plants will grow. So if it's something that's gonna grow quickly and well for you, you do not need to spend the extra money to have the bigger container, especially when you're buying them in mass. I'm getting ready to buy hydrangeas to go next to my house. Especially when you're buying them in mass, you just don't need a big container for them. So when it's a hydrangea, the $20 quart is fine by me. I only have to put a quart hole in the ground, which is very beneficial if you have a hard time digging, and they will grow. So you kind of have to know what plant you're dealing with and how quickly it'll grow. Camellias are another one that's going to grow really small. You'd be better off buying a bigger plant in the beginning. But if it's something that's going to grow fast for you, there's no need to spend the extra money on someone else growing it for you. You can do that in your own garden. So those were my 6 tips for how to save money on your plant budget, how to stretch that plant budget further. We want to honor that people have put their lives into making these beautiful and breeding these beautiful plants for us, but we need to stretch our money as far as it can go so we can buy more plants. So those are my 6 tips that I use to stretch my plant budget further. I would love it if you guys would jump in the comments and say what you do, how you stretch your plant budget further, any good tips and tricks you have, any good websites for people that are like seed swaps or plant swaps. All of that information would be great if you would share it in the comments below. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we will see you in the next one. Bye.